Today, we're going to welcome you here. I hope everybody is having a great day. I'm actually in Montana. Akiptan is in Eagle Butte, South Dakota. Both places have been seriously hot the last few days, into the triple digits. And being as I'm in Montana, I don't like that. It's too hot, but it is making the grass grow, so we're okay with it. So, in case you're not familiar with what we do in our organization, the entire mission and focus of Akiptan is to transform native agriculture and food economies through delivering creative capital, leading paradigm changes, and enhancing prosperity across Indian country. We're seriously focused on Native American agricultural producers. That is the sole area that we do education and lending in, and we are pretty unique in that aspect. Many CDFIs uh, loan to a wider, broader spectrum. That being said, because of the style of loans that we do and how deep agriculture goes, we are one of the faster growing CDFIs. So we're very proud of that. The word Akita is the Lakota word for working together in a cooperative effort, and it's truly reflective of our entire purpose and lending philosophy. We are like a bank in the aspect that we provide loans. However, you can't deposit money into our organization. So that's what makes us different. Another thing that makes us different than a bank is that we truly provide one on one technical assistance, and we really want to make sure that our clients that we work with are really in a partnership with us and we're walking together down that path of business success. So we pair our loans with business and goal planning, things like this, succession planning, information and options, a lot of financial literacy, because we really want to make sure that everybody understands what their cash flow means. What does your balance sheet mean? It's not just something that we print off at the tax accountant once a year. How you guys can use those tools to really understand your operation. While we do have certain laws that we do have to follow, we're relatively unregulated, and that really gives us the opportunity to be flexible with how we approach capital. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But to date, so since 19 or since 2019, we have been able to reach 29 tribal nations. We have $39 million in loan capital committed out there, and we have 546 loans. So that's just in 6 years. So we feel like we're doing the best that we can with the number of people that we have right now. We know that the need is there for additional capital, and we're constantly working on options to fundraise for that. So let's dive in. And like I said, if you guys have questions, please, please, please let me know. But we are going to run through our Succession Planning 101. I was part of the team that developed the guide for this. And if you guys would like, we'll get to the next slide. We'll talk more about this. But we actually have a physical copy. And so if anybody would like that, all you have to do is shoot us an email. And we can get you the actual hard copy of the book. But if you're one of those that likes things online and doesn't want another thing cluttering up their desk, you can go ahead and reference this on our website as well. So I'm going to leave this up here for just a minute. If any of you guys have your phones handy, or if you're not on your phone right now, you can take a picture of the QR code, and it will take you directly to our native agriculture producers succession guide that we developed. This walks us step by step through the process. It's what we're going to talk about today. And it's going to give you ideas of conversations and things that need to happen next for you. Hard copies are available. I always like to say that I am one of those folks that I really do like when I have like a book in my hands. I like having the actual book. And so those are available. We will mail those out to you at no cost. If you feel comfortable, throw your email, or no, you can throw your email, but your mailing address in the chat, or send it to me. I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat. So that way you guys have that. and you guys can send me a quick email and just say, hey, we want that booklet, and we'll get that mailed out directly to you. It really is a step-by-step guide to making a succession plan and what you will need to do and the professionals that you will need to talk to make this happen. So with that, find my mouse again. I'm going to just do this quick reference so you guys have a good idea of what we're going to do. The first step we're going to talk about is our family and business conversations. Who's going to take over and what are the steps to getting there? The second step we're going to talk about today is the professional conversations. And this is where we have to go in and get some professional help from the guys who know the laws and legalities of all the things. That goes into accounting, taxation, what we're looking at for retirement or investments, life insurance planning, financial advisors, all of those things. Step 3 is really going to be where we take what we've done in steps 1 and 2 and we file it at the appropriate places. We notify the people that are in our plan of what our plan is, so there's no surprises at the end. And step 4, we have to review this plan. This is a living and working plan because things change. Things change all the time in our lives. And so it's really, really important to adjust your plan accordingly. If something has seriously changed in your operation or in your family set or what's going to happen next, we need to make sure those updates are made on the documents. So that way, when the time comes for transition or a succession or the changing of ownership, anything like that, it's very, very easy for the next generation. And so that's really the focus of what we're going to do today. Here's my disclaimer, you guys. I personally, and none of us at Akiptan are the formal professionals on retirement, life insurance, accounting, the legal part of this. So we put this disclaimer in here to let you know that we have created this as a tool for you to use. And we want to make sure you understand that your individual choices are yours. These are just tools and ideas to help get you started. We really want you to find a team of people, professionals, a lawyer, a certified public accountant, succession planning professionals that can really help you after you get through the workbook. We can assist you in trying to find those folks in your area. We can definitely help to do resources and reach out to other organizations in those areas and see who they would recommend or who might be doing this type of work in your particular area. So I have to put that disclaimer in here. I am not the professional. This is not the end all be all. This is simply a tool to get you started in the right direction. So what is it? What is a succession plan? Simply put, it's the process of preparing your business and your family for the next generation of ownership. A solid plan can and will help you through a transition period. And without having these plans in place, a lot of times what happens is we end up with the state or the tribe or BIA and court systems involved in your business distributing what was your business. And so in order to get around that, if we put these plans in place, file them in the appropriate places, then we can have that plan set up for our next generations. One of the things we talk about all the time in our organization is that our Native ancestors were constantly planning for the future. And we really need to keep that in the back of our minds and stay aware of that because we really need to follow that through because it's going to help strengthen our future in the things that we're doing today. Proper succession planning will ensure that the next generation of operators doesn't start underwater. It means that you're going to help plan for success for them. And I think when we talk about agriculture and we talk about our businesses and family businesses, I think that's one of the things that really hits home for most of us is that we're doing all of the things today not just for what we have going on now, but we're doing it for the next generation and the next generation. And I think that that is really impactful when we think about actually sitting down and putting together these plans. Not all of us love paperwork. Not all of us love to sit down and have the harder conversations, but it's something that once we do it, it becomes a little easier and it becomes clearer on where we're headed and what the future is going to look like. And it gives a lot of people peace and understanding that, you know what, we do have a strong plan in place. So, I'm going to quote our executive director, Skaya, here. It's about empowerment and taking control. It's about taking those steps to get life insurance, and it's about their family's legacy. We're empowering them, producers, to make those decisions. And that's a huge thing when you get the power to choose and to really be in control of your future. We feel like having a succession plan is something that we don't give enough credit to in our native cultures. We see so often in other dynamics of the world that this is something just very, very typical to have life insurance, retirement, to have these things all set up. And it's not something that we necessarily have the opportunity or have been shown how to do it. And so we feel as an organization that it is vitally important to really let our producers know that this is for you. And this is something that we can help with. Not only do we do loans and business planning, but we want to make sure that you have success in the future and the next generation has success, because that really means that we're growing our own communities. And so that's where we stand on that. So, why? Why do we need to do this? Sounds like a lot of work, right? And it is. I'm not going to lie to you. Putting together a succession plan takes some time and it takes very thoughtful conversations. But the reason that we need to do these things is because without that, you won't control your own future. And through making this plan and getting these things put in place, you get that control back. If we do not have a succession plan or a will or a trust or a estate plan or something in place, then what happens is, like I said before, the tribe, BIA, state legal system gets involved. They really, they take over the control of it, and that is not something I think any of us want. Another thing that helps by making the plan is this limits your successors fighting. Um, One of the things that I was taught many, many years ago, I was read a story of who gets grandma's yellow pie plate. And the story basically goes back and it's talking about literally who gets grandma's yellow pie plate. And if grandma doesn't say in her will who gets this pie plate, then we've got 6 grandkids scrambling and fighting over the yellow pie plate. Now, the yellow pie plate can be anything, right? It's not just necessarily a pie plate, but without direction, that's where we find is the most conflict. And so, by wanting to set up your family, your business for success for the next generation, it all happens through planning. This also will help to protect your assets. There's less chance of your assets getting split up and sold off, whether that be land, machinery, livestock, capital, anything of that nature. One of the things that we often see is a lot of things end up in probate. Um, if there's no will, if there's no plan in place, then things go through probate, then lawyers get involved. There's the expense of additional lawyer fees and all of the extra stuff that comes along with that. And so by putting a plan in place of what you want to happen and having the legal vehicles essentially involved and getting these things where they need to be, you can eliminate all of that on the backside. So the next thing that happens is once you make the plan, you put the plan in place. This is going to help you set up for retirement. It's going to help you if you pass away. It's going to help your family. It's going to help you when you're transitioning the business into somebody else's hands. And by having this plan laid out, it makes all the necessary arrangements so things are very cut and dry for the folks that are going to be leading your business next. So, things to think about. This is a hard one because we all come into every space, every family, every business comes into a space with assumptions. It's something that we do, and we don't do it even noticing it, right? We don't even necessarily realize that we're assuming something. I'm going to give you an example of this. This is a personal example from our family. So we are a ranch family, from originally from South Dakota. We now ranch out in Montana. But one of the things that we had assumed, and we thought everybody had assumed it, was that my husband was going to be the one to take on, the ranch. He was the one that had been working it for however long it had been, but really in his parents' will, because it hadn't been updated, it was going to go to all four siblings equally. And so that was something that we had assumed, but yet we had to go back and have those tough conversations. So the next bullet point goes into communication is key. There's going to be some hard conversations with succession planning. There's going to be some really simple ones. Some of you guys are like, oh, we know exactly how we want this to lay out. And that's great. But do the rest of the people involved know exactly how you want it to be laid out? So ask what your next generation wants to do. You might find out that you have somebody in that next generation that really has zero interest. Maybe they've been operating with you, but they really don't have an interest in managing the business. And so it's having those open conversations and being willing to say, okay, now we know where you're at. Let's figure out what the next steps forward are. One of the things that I have always been told is that these conversations can be held separately or together. Now, this all goes back to knowing your dynamic of the folks that you're working with, and the folks that are going to be involved in your plan. Is it going to be a good idea to have everybody sit down around the dinner table and we go through and discuss this? If we have a lot of animosity and a lot of back and forth where, maybe people aren't as active with one another as you would hope, then maybe we need to have these conversations one on one. Um, Another thing that I've always suggested to folks is a moderator. Sometimes in these conversations, they get tense. We're talking about, family operations that, need to be handed down, or you want them to be handed down in a certain way. Somebody else thinks it should be done this way. Sometimes a moderator can really help and just assist in facilitating the conversation to reach the general goal of coming up with the plan so that everybody's on the same page and that everybody is satisfied with how things are going to move forward. Really, it gets down to who's going to get what when you pass away, who's going to get what of the business as you retire, how is that going to look? So, oh, it looks like my picture didn't come in on this one. That's strange. Sorry, guys. Things to think about. Who might continue your business? Is it going to be a family member? Is it going to be your spouse? Is it going to be the neighbor who's going to end up taking on your business? Is it a partner that you have within the business already? And is everyone aware that your wishes are for that person to take over? Because the last thing you want is to have somebody assume that I'm going to be the one to take the business over. And then you have another person that's like, no, 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 I'm going to be the one to take the business over. And come to find out, there's nothing to tell anybody what your actual wishes were. And that just causes a lot more stress in the end of anybody's situation trying to get through all of that. Something else to think about. What happens if nobody wants to take over the business? What are we going to do with it then? Let's say we don't have a successor. What is that? What does that look like when the time comes for us to retire? And what do you really want to leave the next generation? Do you want to leave them with a multitude of bills and issues and things that are unaccounted for and they're not sure where to go or how to handle it? Or do you want to leave them set up in a successful manner so that they can just jump in and get rolling? This is the whole purpose of succession planning. How can you leave your next generation, your successors, in a positive state of affairs for your business. Now, that might not mean like positive net income, but just a positive state of affairs so they know what is going on. So there's not a business disruption within your operation. And another thing you're going to want to list out, what tools do you have in place already? Do you have investment accounts? Do you have retirement accounts? Do you have life insurance? And what you're going to do once we get all that stuff listed out is figure out what that's going to look like in the end. How is that going to pay down debt? How is it going to pay out so and so who doesn't have anything to do with the operation? How does that all look? How do you want it to look? So, we're going to jump into step 1. And in the book is really cool, you guys, because in the book you can literally write these things out. There is space to write out. There is extra sheets of paper built in, or if you want, you can get online and use our online booklet as well. But through working through this booklet, you will literally spell out your plan and your wishes, and that's what you can take in to a lawyer or a legal team to help you through getting the things legally put into place so they're binding. So, who will make decisions for me if I am unable to make decisions myself? Now, this isn't necessarily that we passed away or that we retired, but this is really going back to what happens if I am in a car accident and I am not physically able to make decisions for myself? Who is going to do that for me? Now, I'm not so sure that I want my oldest child doing that for me because I'm not sure what she would do. But maybe my youngest child is the better one to make these decisions for me. And so these are things that you have to put into place. They're legal documents that need to be put into a safe space. So that way, if this ever does happen, your children, your successors, your partners know where to find them, and that way they can use them as they need them. So things of this nature is like an executor of a will, power of attorney. Power of attorney needs to be for different things. You can have a power of attorney for your finances, a power of attorney for your health, a power of attorney for your mental health. And so depending on what state you live in, you might need all three of them. And there might be others in your area that need to be spelled out specifically. And so that's something to think about. Like, who do I want to make decisions on my behalf if something were to happen to me? It will also include your medical directives. What do you want to happen medically in your position? So the next step of these conversations, and this is where I was talking about, do we sit down at the table with all 8 of us, or should I, as the matriarch of the family and the business owner, should I have these conversations separately and see where everybody's at to gauge the interest before we all sit down together and try it? You'll be surprised at the family members who have interest and who do not have interest in the actual business. And both of those situations need to be incorporated into the plan. Uh, Folks that are in the succession plan that are your next generation that are not taking part in the business, I don't want to say they're going to expect something, but oftentimes they expect something. If if William gets the ranch, then what does Daniel get? And so we have to look at what's fair and equal isn't always fair and equal. And so you want to make sure that everybody knows your wishes and that everybody is on the same page when the time comes. So another conversation that you're going to have is discussing the finances of your business, where it's at right now, where your land is at right now. Is it paid off? Do we have loans? Who are those with? How will those get paid off if I were to pass away? Equipments, any products that you might be selling, and how are they going to get transferred to the next owner, the next generation, the successors? And so one of the things that happens, and we can do a lot of this stuff within a will, and other parts of it have to be done separately. There's other legal vehicles involved in that as well. You can have trust, there's irrevocable trust, there's revocable trust. Your basic will cover a lot of things. You can do a full estate plan. And so once you get through the booklet, you can go and visit with a lawyer and ask them what is going to be the best for you guys. So on we'll go back here just one. So family business team conversations, I would say this is the one of the hardest parts of the actual planning. And that is just because if you guys are anything like my family, there are a lot of dynamics. There is a lot of different attitudes. And we try and get along, but you never know what somebody else is thinking until you ask. And so it's time consuming to have those important conversations, but they are so very important. And then the next part of that is going to be relaying that information to everyone involved. And we're going to talk about that in step 3. So step 2, this is where we get to our professional conversation. So after we've sat down and said, hey, everyone, what are your expectations? What do you want? Do you want to take the next step in this business? Would you rather be a silent partner? Would you rather help with the books? Would you rather do this? Do you not want anything to do with my business at all? And if that's the case, fine. But we have to know where everybody's at. After we know where everybody's at, that's where we start getting the professionals involved. So the professionals are going to come in and sit down with us, and they're going to have a multitude of conversations. And lucky for you, you'll have your succession planning booklet, and you're like, we already did all this. Look at all my stuff. It's going to take less time. But one of the first steps is the lawyer legal planning aspect of things, because this all does, I mean, there's a system in place to make sure all of your assets, all of your land, all of the financials, everything gets taken care of. So when you look at contacting a lawyer or legal advisor, there are a few things that we talk about that are really important. And I always like to tell people, when you're interviewing professionals, I consider it an interview. When I call up any type of tax accountant, lawyer, estate planner, anybody in that nature, life insurance planner, I call them up and I interview them essentially. And I'm like, okay, what is your experience dealing with trust ground? What is your experience in understanding Native American agriculture on the reservation? What is your experience in multi-generational family farms? And I want to know where they're at in those areas. And they might not be strong in all of them, but if they're strong in the ones that are most important to what your family needs, then okay, let's look at it. The next question, how much do you cost an hour? So I know what I'm getting into. Do you have a flat rate to set up wills, to set up a trust, to go through succession planning? What does that look like? And to ask about those important things in the beginning. It's truly an interview. These are people you're going to be working hand in hand with for your future. And you want to make sure that they fit your needs. So you're going to get all of these things in a row. You're going to put your lawyer name, phone number. There's a space in the booklet for notes. And you're going to say, this is who we're going to use. You're going to get your appointment set up. And then you're going to start putting your questions in place. What are specific questions that I have for this expert? Would a living trust be a good thing for our family? Is it something that we need or not really with what we have and what we're dealing with? What about taxes? How do we make sure that we are looking at our tax situation, and when I pass away or when I retire, would it be better to sell the operation to the next generation before something happens? Or would it be better just to gift it over time? Would it be better to just let things lay and the estate tax will take its place? So these are all questions that you want to ask. And I wish I had answers for them. Like, I wish I could tell you which one is the best one for you, but I can't. And part of the reason that I can't is, number one, I am not a professional lawyer. Number two, things change. We're seeing it firsthand right now. And I just want to, we're going to talk about taxes here in just a minute, also with an accountant, but just so you guys know, with the passing of the latest bill that came through, there was changes that are being made to the death tax and estate taxes. And I am not a certified public accountant, so I can't tell you how that's going to impact your operation or how it's going to impact your estate. But what I can tell you is my guess is they're going to change again. And they're going to change again because this happens a lot. And so this is where having those professionals in place to really help us figure out where we should be is so important. So these are things to ask about. There's going to be other questions that come up. That's when you jot those down in that booklet, you guys. And that way you're ready for when you have those conversations with the professionals, you're like, here's what my daughter brought up. Here's what my partner brought up. Here's something that our neighbor, who is a big part of our lives, thought about. What would you do here? And asking those questions so that way you can have their professional opinion. Now, the second set of professional conversations is with an accountant. A lot of times when we talk about estate planning, and depending on the lawyer or the team, they will actually have people that they work with back and forth on like the tax part, as well as setting up the actual like estate. And so talking with your tax people is the same. If you do not have a tax person and you do your taxes yourself, kudos to you. I am not that person. That's why I get to work on the program side because I'm not the numbers person. But you can have an accountant, but it's very important to talk with somebody who is a certified public accountant, a CPA, especially when you're talking about succession planning, because they have all of the knowledge when it comes to inheritance taxes, step taxes, estate taxes, income taxes. Sometimes I feel like we're taxed to tax to tax to taxed, but here we are. So finding somebody that you know and trust is very vital. Same as what we talked about with the lawyer. If you don't have somebody, couple things. Ask around to locals, neighbors, family members, somebody that you trust, and say, hey, who do you use? Who works well for you, who to stay away from, and kind of get the gauge of the community and what they think. You can also reach out to us and we will do some investigating on our end and let you know who's available in that area. But you're going to ask these same questions, right? Because you want to make sure that they're going to be the person that knows enough about your operation and knows enough about the legalities of it. So ask about Social Security income. Do you have Social Security income? What does that look like? How is that going to affect my retirement plans, my succession plans? And so, when we say that Social Security income, how is it going to come in when I retire? What is that going to look like? And having somebody to discuss and plan that part with is very important. So you're going to have to talk to some lawyers. I told you this is going to be a little bit of work, guys, but it's worth it. It is so worth it to have this done. So we'll find lawyers, we'll find a CPA so we can really get things set up so we can essentially advocate for ourselves and our business and figure out what we need to be doing now so we don't get hit so hard with the taxes later. So we can make sure that our kids are getting the best bang for their buck. So we can make sure that our business stays viable. And this is all about this planning process. So another professional conversation that I recommend everybody have is with a life insurance provider. Some of us are fortunate enough and we do have life insurance, maybe through a job, or we've had it, as a youngster and we've just kept that policy. Others of us have never had life insurance in our lives and we're like, that's just another tax, right? Another insurance payment. However, what I will say about this, I think that if you have debt, any type of debt, I think it is very, very wise to have some life insurance. I think that from my perspective and going through different things that I've went through in my life, it has been vital that we had life insurance for different things. You do not know when your last day on earth is going to be. We even have life insurance on our children. And I'm glad we did because that came in that came into play for us and we needed that. So life insurance, the younger you are, the less expensive it is, the longer you will pay into it. life insurance typically is either term or whole life. Sometimes there's another vehicle, life insurance vehicle called universal. Um, but we do have some people that we know and trust that have way more experience in life insurance than I do. And you guys in your areas all have a life insurance provider somewhere, and it just might be tracking them down. So one of the things that, as you're contacting life insurance providers, you want to be cognizant of, what are you trying to replace? If I passed away tomorrow, what needs to be covered for my family to still have success, to still function like they're doing today? And how much debt do I have? How much income do I bring in? What's that replacement income? And so that's something that we really have to think about. And it's hard to think about that. We don't like to think about those things because I'm going to live forever. I don't know about you guys, but I'm planning on living a long time, but we don't know. And so having these things in place at any stage of the game is so very, very critical. So finding a life insurance provider, calling them, discussing what you're trying to do. We're working on our succession plan. We're investigating life insurance. We're not sure we can afford it. We're not sure we want to do it, but tell us a little bit about it type of an attitude when we go into these places. So, things to think about: what type of life insurance is going to be best for me and my operations? So, there's a lot of different options. There's term with repayment, which means like usually it's like a 20-year term. And then at the end of the 20 years, it's kind of acted like a savings account. So you get part of that money back or something of that sort. There's whole life where you just pay in and pay in and pay in, and it basically saves it for you. And then it accumulates like a cash value. Um, and I'm sure there's 18 others that I'm forgetting to mention to you guys, but there's a lot. Um, so it's something to really think about. It's something to visit with a professional about, to make sure that everybody's needs are met. I know a lot of farmers and ranchers, agricultural producers, they get life insurance policies. So we'll use William and Daniel again. So William gets the ranch, Daniel's going to get the life insurance policy. So you see some of that kind of stuff go on too. So, everybody's receiving something from mom and dad when the time comes, that type of a situation. So the next one here is a financial advisor or a retirement provider. Now, a lot of times you might find that the person who does life insurance also has some financial advising experience or has somebody to recommend. So I always like to ask back and forth, like, who do you recommend for this? If you trust your financial advisor, who do you recommend that we go to for this? And get their recommendations. But what these folks do basically is they come in and they look at where you're at. They look at your business, they look at your assets, they look at your personal, and they say, okay, here's where I think we could strengthen what you have going on. Here's where I think we should do this. And they're going to help you get set up so that you have a retirement. Um, in agriculture, a lot of times we're like, well, the ranch is my retirement. And that's great, grand, and wonderful, until it's not. It's getting harder and harder, I feel like, for us as agricultural producers to be single income families. And I think it's important that we recognize that and we understand that maybe I don't want to work until I'm 92 years old. Maybe I'd like to travel at some point and take my camper out and about and visit the national parks. Um, but how do we make that happen so I can retire and the next generation can take over? And this is where a retirement planner comes into play, and they can really help us figure out what the best step is for that. So, that being said, the earlier you start with any type of investment or retirement plan is better, but there's no bad time to start. You can start today. So, things to ask when you're in that meeting. What's your experience in Indian country? I think that's always a great question to ask. Like, what's your experience? What do you know about me and my family and where I live and how we operate? Um, what would be my most tax beneficial way to save at this point in my life? I'm 40 years old. I have two kids, two different businesses, and we don't know what's up and what's down some days, but this is where we're at. How do I make this a priority? How aggressive should my plan be? AKA, how risky can I put my investments? What are the different types of retirement savings? How much do I need to save right now? And what would be the best way to set up to help future generations of my business thrive? So those are just in a short example of questions to ask, and to really get the idea going forward of where do I need to be, where do I want to be, and how I get there. So step 3 is filing and notification. This is the step that people forget. I say that because we're guilty of it ourselves. This is the step where things have to be filed at county level, at a tribal level, at a state level with a lawyer, so that way they become formalized. If they do not get to that point, then you simply have a piece of paper and you're hoping that the court system will accept it when the time comes. So you'll have to investigate, and these are great questions for your lawyer because this is different all across the United States. Who do you need to notify? Who do you need to talk with? What level do you need to file these things at? Do I need to file this with BIA? Do I need to file this just with the lawyer and they'll handle it? Do I need to file because I have deeded ground? Does it need to go to the county? Does it need to go to the state? What does that look like? And so a lawyer can help us figure all of that out for our different areas. Now, who do you need to notify on the family side or the personal side is another part of this. And I think that's really incredibly important because up until this point, we had initial conversations in step 1. Then we had conversations and started getting some work done with our professionals, our accountants, our lawyers, our investment team, and figuring out where we're going to be and how we're getting there. But we have to circle back around and talk back with everybody. And we have to say, this is the plan that we've come up with. This is how we see things playing out in our lives, your lives, and the business itself. And it's having those specific conversations and saying, William, this is where you're going to be. This is where we have you in the plan. Daniel, this is where we have you in the plan. And there's other people, of course, involved in, Marie, here's where you're at. Jewel, here's where you're at. I'm just using my husband's family. The poor people, they'll see this sometime and they'll be like, why do you continue to use us? Um, but we have to make sure that they're aware of the plan and what our wishes are, because that helps to remove that animosity or that, well, I thought I was getting this, or I thought this is how it was laid out. And it's like, no, no, no. We want everybody on the same page from the get go. So you also need to notify the folks that are involved with the plan. Now, where are you going to keep the plan? This is a very important thing as well. It is important to let the executor of the plan know where you're going to keep it. Is it going to be filed and kept with a lawyer's office and you have a copy in your safe at home? Is it going to be kept at the executor's house? Who is going to have the plan? Because if we have this wonderful plan that we've spent so much time and effort on, and then nobody can find it, that's a problem. So we want to make sure that people know where the plan is, so that way it can be the smooth process that we're hoping for. Now, step 4, review the plan. I know we all want things to be one and done. We all want things to just be like, we did it once, it's never going to change, that's how life is going to be. However, we do know that things change in life all the time, you guys. And it might be a situation of, the legalities of the laws have changed and now we need to adapt our plan to adjust accordingly. Or William decided he's not ranching anymore and Daniel's going to take it over, and now we have to swap the plan out and figure out the next step. So life changes equal plan changes. Anytime you have a major life change, you need to reevaluate your plan. Make sure it's still set up for success for that next generation. Communication is key. Again, making sure you have those open lines of communication, even when it's hard, making sure that everybody's aware of what's happening. Ask questions. Are you satisfied with where your operation's going to be during and after your succession plan is put into place? And are those people all satisfied with the future plan. Um, Typically, they say review every few years. I put 3 to 5. It really just depends on what part of your life you're in. If you're in a rapidly changing time of your life, you're going to have to review this more often. If you're maybe a little bit more set up and things are pretty stabilized, you can probably squeeze it out until that year 5 to reevaluate. But it is something that does need looked at again. So this is a list, and this is in the document. These are important business documents that most of us have somewhere. And if you're anything like me, I have a stack of them over here. I've got a stack of them over here. Some of them are in that file cabinet. Some of them are at the lawyer's office. They're all over. But what is so very important is once you put together this plan, get a 3-ring binder, and you're going to start putting everything together. So that way everything is spelled out and in one place for the next person. So I'm not going to read through all of these. Like I said, that list is going to be in the booklet. But it is very important that we get all of our ducks in a row so somebody doesn't have to scramble in a time where they don't need to be scrambling. Another thing I like to always point out here is any type of federal contracts, if you are working with FSA, BIA, NRCS, any grant programs, anything like that, it's very important to have those documents or at least have the contact people for who the documents are. My husband always says, and this is probably more true than I would ever like to admit, but he goes, if anything were to happen to you, I'd have to go to the telephone book and look at B and click through banks and start calling to see where we had accounts. And I'm like, William, that is horrible. So I hope you guys aren't in that situation, but that's the situation I'm in. So I have everything spelled out where our bank accounts are, what the accounts are, the beneficiaries on them, because in our operation, my husband does all the outside stuff. He does all the cattle care, all the horse care, all that. And I take care of the paperwork. I love to be out there with him, but sometimes I'm stuck at the desk. So I'm sure, you guys can relate. So it's important to have all of these documents in place so they're easy to access, easy to find. So we have a list of succession planning resources. Again, this is in the booklet. This is also out on our website. And so typically there's a tribal land specialist in the region and we can help you locate them. The Indian Land Tenure, that should be tenure, not tensure. Sorry, guys, I'll fix that. Foundation. They're a great organization that can really help through Indian land questions, opportunities, things like that. We have the Intertribal Ag Council, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and then, of course, USDA contract transfers. And we also have additional recordings on succession planning on our website. So if you guys need any help with resources, you get a hold of me. And I will do my best to help you with that. Again, I wanted to throw this back up here. We do have hard copies of these booklets available, so please email me. I will get one sent out to you as soon as I can, so that way you get them in your hands and can start working through the options and ideas that are in the booklet. Also, as we finish up here, you guys, I want to let you know that we have some other resources available that we have developed specifically for you, specifically for folks working in native agriculture. We have a specific guide for cattle ranchers. We have a specific agribusiness guide for native producers. And we also have one for our young entrepreneurs. So that's like a youth financial literacy curriculum, and it is truly great. We have all of these hard copy as well. So if you would like any of those, please send me a message and we will get that out in the mail with you as well. Succession plan book on the screen here. And then the other thing we have, and this is a rancher record book. It is focused on ranchers. It has information for sheep, cattle, buffalo. There might be others. But anyway, it's got a wide berth of information in it, but it's a really cool book that you can keep in your vehicle if you're anything like my husband, that, the little console. He's always got stuff thrown in there. This is a place where he can put all of his notes. Anything from sick calves needing treated, where we move the salt, where we're planting for different hay crops, what we're harvesting, dates, all of that is right there, and it can be just right in that book. So we do have those on hand as well. So webinars and resources we had today, so we appreciate that. Next week, we have on July 16th, we have NRCS coming in, and they're going to be doing a webinar with us on what they have available, any changes that have been going on with their programs and what that now looks like. So you can go ahead and click that or scan that QR code and sign up for that now. You can also just visit our website. It's on our website. We promote it on Facebook as well. So check that out. August 20th, Intertribal Ag Food Business Center is going to be presenting and telling us a little bit more about what they have going on. So join us for that. And then in September, we don't have official dates yet, but we have a two-part webinar that's going to happen that's going to really tell us all we need to know about Farm Service Agency, what they have going on, changes that have been made, what the new programs are, and all the different resources that they've been having come out lately. And then October 15th, if you guys have been with us for a while, we always try and do in October and November a general ag update, or ag tax update, excuse me. So Rob Holcomb will be here, and he's just wonderful. He makes sure that we're all up to date on the latest and greatest of what our taxes might be looking like, or what we need to be aware of come January. So definitely check that stuff out. I also want you guys to know before we go here that there is a ton of webinars, like recorded webinars like this, on our website. So if you're ever looking for any type of additional information, I would check that out. They're usually about an hour long, 45 minutes to an hour, and we have all sorts of information from previous tax ones to other succession planning options. We have updates on conservation practices, really a wide berth of opportunity for you guys to learn and see what's happening out there in native agriculture today. With that being said, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, I had a QR code that said you could sign up for our newsletter, but I don't know why they're not pulling my QR code, so I'm going to have to figure that out. I'm so sorry. But again, if you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can go to our website. There's a link right there that says sign up for our newsletter. Put your email address in. That way you'll have all of the latest and greatest reminders of the things that we're doing. And if you ever need to contact us, we are readily available. We are nationwide and across a lot of different areas at this point. And so we just want you to know that we are really here for the producer and here for you guys. So that's what I have today for succession planning. I honestly didn't think we were going to go the full hour, so I'm kind of sorry about that, guys. But does anybody have any questions at all? I don't see any questions in my Q&A here, and nothing in the chat so far. But just know that we will have this recording up on our website, usually within the week. So if you want to review it or send it off to other folks that you think might find this useful, please let me know. And again, shoot me any emails, you guys, if you would like us to send out those hard copies. Hope you guys all have a terrific day. Thank you.